I'm gonna give you the perfect rep range to help you improve your athletic muscle, and we're gonna start right now. Athletes need hypertrophy, strength, speed, endurance, mobility, the ability to rapidly coordinate. But all of these things morph into a specific area that athlete needs, specific to their sports. Let's take something like endurance. We know that there's going to be some localized training to try to enhance that athlete's ability to endure more specific to their sport. Think about a wrestler who wants to increase their grip strength late in a match, or maybe even a sprint cyclist who wants to consistently have that high wattage output, especially late in a race. They could do rep ranges in the rep range of 17 to 30 reps. That's going to lead to some hypertrophy, but it will also lead to some serious endurance gains. Training endurance is all about a longer extended time, a longer extended duration. The work is great for stability and getting out in front of potential problem areas. But is this the best work specifically for developing that athletic muscle? Not really. Athletic muscle does exist, and there's a study that has shown us that if the muscle protein accrued via hypertrophy were to promote an increase in the fraction of myosin heads that are unavailable for actin interaction, then this may provide some rationale as to why muscle growth following resistance training does not appear to contribute to an adaptation in muscular strength. You can get really big, you can start to get really jacked up and swole, but if there's a lack of interaction between actin and myosin, then you will have muscle that is larger and not necessarily as coordinated. If we can build muscle in this regard, and then over time create a potential role of the myosin head for strength adaptations following that resistance training, now we can take that muscle and make it a little bit more athletic. So we've got to do exercises and movement patterns that will lead to more twitchiness, that will lead to more elasticity, that will lead to functionality that's specific to the sports realm. We know that in the sports realm, you've got to be mobile, you have to be strong, so we have to develop that muscle that will exhibit that strength. We have to have impulse capability, which means we have to be explosive. We have to move a large amount of force or apply a large amount of force in a short period of time. And we also have to have a massive amount of speed. This leads to greater development in competition and in turn, that athletic muscle. So we know that sets of 17 to 30 reps, that's gonna lead to a massive amount of endurance. We're gonna be able to hit those sets for longer periods of time, and this will help athletes across all realms. But the issue here is that not all of our training, not all of our rep ranges should be done in this regard. And we even like to look at percentages of rep ranges. Okay, how frequently should we be working in those percentages? And something like a football player, they might only be in the 17 to 30 rep range about 15% of their training. Now, if we have athletes that have to be more explosive, which is basically everybody, we have to think about what's that next realm. Okay, now we're gonna look at rep ranges of like 7 to 12 reps, somewhere in that range. Okay, so if we take something like a back squat and we go in and we bust out 7 to 12 reps, now all of a sudden that athlete will develop a tremendous amount of strength. But we have to remember, strength is part of it, but speed and explosiveness also plays a massive role in developing the athlete. So let's say we're doing 5 sets of 7. Maybe we're even doing 8 sets of 8, the old standard bodybuilding protocol. These are great rep ranges to increase strength and also increase a little bit of hypertrophy. But we need to remember back to that study that we talked about in the beginning. We just need to be aware that when we're thinking about actin and myosin interacting, that's where we see a massive amount of strength gains occurring. And that typically will also happen when there's greater innervation. We're gonna see greater innervation with a lower rep scheme. So doing sets of 17 to 30, that's great for endurance. Doing sets of 7 to 12 reps, that's great for hypertrophy. It's pretty good for strength, but it's not the absolute best. So when it comes down to developing that athletic muscle, we have to look at creating that muscle, okay, building that muscular base, but then innervating it as well as possible with high speed movements. So that's gonna be increasing our ability to fire and coordinate as rapidly as possible and to recruit as many high threshold motor units in that developed muscle so that we can then express more force with whatever task we're doing. Directly into impulse and speed. Impulse and speed are the two major factors that we're gonna look at when we're trying to get an athlete who is muscular, who is big, to be more athletic. And a good example would be doing something like, let's say, box jump. So we get set here, boom, we go 1 box jump, boom, 2 box jumps. We wanna focus on accelerating as quickly as possible. I just did 2 reps, okay? So if we have an individual, we might do, let's say, 2 reps here at a higher box to try and get their intent to raise their center of mass, to raise their hips, to accelerate through the entire pattern. One big aspect here is that we might develop over a couple different sets to the point where they do doubles and they have to land and go and focus on that ground reaction force. That's gonna improve their impulse. And then we can start to do that unilaterally to try and improve their ground reaction force so that they can run faster, to improve their ability to handle that ground reaction force that they're putting into the ground. So the main concept here is using 2 to 5 reps to increase innervation and that rate of coordination. So for the 2 to 5 rep range, we're gonna look at improving explosiveness, which is what we term impulse, okay? So we wanna focus on expressing a large amount of force in a short period of time. We can also use those 2 to 5 rep ranges to increase maximal strength or speed. So that's some of the big factors here, is that we can get really dynamic, we can get really strong, and we can get really fast by using that 2 to 5 rep range. So we could come in and pretend theoretically that there's 170 kilos or maybe even more, 220 kilos on the bar. And I would come down and I'd say, let's do 2 double bounce back squats. So we're gonna go down, up fast, up fast, okay? So we'll do that for like 6 doubles. That's gonna help us improve that actin and myosin interaction. You could also do something like clean pulls, okay? So you can go really heavy on a clean pull and try to push that strength right off the floor. And we can go with a 5-second eccentric. Come back down, get set, come back down, nice and controlled, okay? We could do that for 2 reps, 3 reps, 4 reps. Whatever we need to develop that overarching strength, 2 to 5 rep range is perfect for that increase in the pull with technical coordination lifts. You can make the rep scheme fit bilateral plyometrics or even unilateral plyometrics. Whatever we're thinking about, if we're doing sets of 2 to 5 reps, we can make those movements really heavy, like a 1 box clean, and you can try and work as heavy as possible. You can do something like an unbroken front squat, try to push that absolute strength. That rep scheme of 2 to 5 reps enables you to be dynamic, fast, but also push those heavier loads without leading to a large amount of fatigue on the nervous system. It boils down to the rep ranges of 2 to 5 reps. We have to think effectively with the way that we're gonna go about doing those 2 to 5 reps. It might be 5 sets of 2, it might be 7 sets of 4, something along those lines. But if we're doing sets of 2 to 5 reps, we can improve our plyometric execution. We can improve our speed components. We could do 7 sets of 2 reps where we're running a 10-meter sprint to try and improve that acceleration. And at the same time, we could do 7 sets of 3 to improve our absolute strength on, let's say, the back squat or the bench press. Then we get into some technical coordination lifts. Let's say we're trying to improve our power snatch so that we can jump a little bit higher. We might do 6 sets of 4. We might do 6 sets of 2. That 2 to 5 rep range is extremely dynamic when it comes to developing that overarching athlete. And this is exactly how we build out our strength training system inside of Peak Strength. You guys can go over to peakstrength.app, the Google Play Store or the Apple iOS Store, and you can download Peak Strength, get into that system, and that's where you're gonna see an abundance of 2 to 5 rep ranges to help you improve that overall athlete profile. We're gonna focus on things like speed, impulse, strength, and endurance so that you can become a freak. Because remember, freaks, if you wanna become a champion, you've always gotta cultivate your power. Peace.